Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to make some fall decor and I'm going to start with this wire pumpkin. Now I really like that this opens and I can put something inside it. This is a pumpkin, although it was really hard for me to figure that out for sure. And one of the things I didn't like about it was these metal leaves, so I just removed those. They were pretty easy to take off. But I want this, it almost looks like an apple to me, so I want to make sure, I could tell by the shape of the leaves that it definitely wasn't an apple. So I want to make sure that you can tell very easily that this is a pumpkin. So I'm going to use the color Terra, and that's a Dixie Belle color, which is a warm muted orange. And I'm just going to haphazardly paint this because I want some of that black to show through. Now, as you can see, I had been painting on this frame to the left here, and I used the color buttercream on that, and I didn't even wash my brush. I just went straight to painting with the orange because I like the variation in color that it gave me. And I liked it so much that I added a little bit of the buttercream to my plate so that I could dab it in that just a little bit, and it would last throughout the whole pumpkin. Otherwise, I just would have gotten that on the first part of the pumpkin, and then the rest would have just been straight orange. But I really liked the way that it looked with that buttercream in it. So I went over this whole thing, and I just dabbed it on and made sure to leave some of that black coming through. So I painted it all around the outside, on the bottom, and then also on the inside, because you're going to be seeing all that inside after it's painted. And then once this was dry, I sprayed it with a top coat just to seal in that chalk paint. And then I had this metal candlestick in my, or candle holder in my stash for a long time, and decided to, my first plan was to add it to this, and then I decided to add it to another pumpkin that I'm going to be doing. Again, I didn't worry with cleaning my brush first because I didn't mind the variation in the color. So this is the color Collard Greens, which is a Dixie Belle color. I want all muted colors here, is why I decided on this color. And this only needed one coat, and then once I painted the whole thing and let it dry well, then I finished this off also with a clear top coat. I also thrifted this knit shirt. It's almost like a sweater, but it's a little bit thinner, and I decided that I'm going to make over this bucket. As you can see, I've been making over some of these buckets, and with this, the one to the left there, I filled it with some joint compound. I'm going to be painting that one later, but I decided on this one I just was going to cover this one. So I'm going to take that plastic handle off. I have no need for that, and I'm going to cover it with this shirt. So all I'm going to do here is cut the body of the shirt off, and that's what I'm going to use to cover this. And this is similar to what I do to some of the styrofoam pumpkins that I get from Dollar Tree, because I take the top off and then cover this, or cover it. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing here. I'm going to have to maneuver this fabric just a little bit in order to cover that and make it look like it belongs there. And I was showing you the sleeve there because I can use that sleeve and cut little sections and stuff them with polyfill to make some little bowl filler pumpkins. So when you get a shirt, you can get a lot of uses out of it. You can make a large one out of the body of it, and then several small ones out of the sleeves. Now what I'm going to do to make this cover better is I'm going to take a needle and thread, and you want kind of a heavy duty thread here. I think I'm using an upholstery thread, and you want to go all the way around either side of it. And And what you're going to do is make large stitches and pull that together, and it's going to gather that together. And then you'll have it all gathered there in the bottom, and then you'll pull your thread taut, and it'll make like a little sack, I guess you would call it. And then you'll slip that pumpkin down into it, and then fold the excess down to the inside of the pumpkin, if that makes sense. So again, I'm taking very large stitches all the way around the top, and then I'm going to pull that together to close it up, and then I will make some little knots in the end to secure it tightly, and then I'll set my pumpkin down inside it. So what I do is I just have my glue gun handy, and I put a little glue on one spot, and then glue that in place, and then just start kind of working my way around. But first I want to make sure that I can have my fabric evenly spaced. So I do that on all four sides, and then I just start working a little at a time, making those pleats as I go. Although I love neutrals a lot, I love this color of orange for fall. I just think it makes such a pretty fall color. And this combined with the collard greens color, I think it's just a really pretty, it can be primitive or it can just be traditional. I just think it's very pretty. And then you can add your creams with it also. So what I want to use this for is just a container. Now obviously, well, I guess not obviously, some people might use this to put candy in or something like that to display on a table, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put some flowers inside it. I'm just going to put some fall flowers inside it, and I think that will make a cute arrangement. Now once I get this all glued and I know that everything is good and tight and very secure, then I'm going to cut off the excess. I want just a tiny bit of excess that I can kind of stuff down in there, but the rest of this is just going to be in the way, so I'm just going to cut it all as neatly as I can around the top. And then I'm just going to go all the way around it, securing everything in place. And then I decided that one of the ways that I can make this look more like a pumpkin is to use some leaves that look kind of like pumpkin leaves. And although I'm not sure exactly what pumpkin leaves look like, these kind of make me think of it, so I'm just going to use these. I like the muted color of these, and if I decide to, and I think that I will, go back and dry brush some of that collard green color on it and make it go better together. Now these I'm just kind of gluing in place, and I'm going to be adding some moss around the top of this, so I'm not very worried about any of this showing that I don't think looks good. Now fall, I think, is one of those seasons that is very easy to come up with ideas on things to decorate with. And I think you can use a lot of even natural materials to decorate with. And but I just really enjoy crafting for fall. And now it's ready to glue onto the stand. So I'm just going to connect that to that stand with some hot glue, and I think that will hold just fine. So once I glue this on the top here, I decided to add some of the moss around not only the top of the bucket, but also around the very bottom where it meets the candlestick. And I also decided to brush a little bit of the English ivy over the top of the green, leaving a lot of that green showing. Instead of painting the leaves to blend with the base, I decided to paint the base to blend with the leaves. And I think that was a better choice, because even though I love the collard greens color, it's not very green. So I felt like this needed a little bit of green added in. So again, I just added the moss with some hot glue around the very top and the very bottom, and put some flowers in it. And I also finished it off with a hang tag with some scripture on it. Now, as it turned out, after I found the pumpkin, I thrifted these potpourri bags, and they still had a really good smell to them, so I'm going to use that to fill this up, and I may have to not use some of the thinner stuff. I also had this stem, and it's just a piece of wood that is cut, and I drilled a hole in it so that I could place it on top of the pumpkin and hide that ugly metal stem. Now, it did take quite a bit of drilling to get this to fit in, and the first couple of attempts didn't work, but I finally got it covered. And I also ended up putting a little bit of Spanish moss in the bottom as kind of a nest to hold that potpourri in, and that worked perfectly good. And then I put a little bit of that same moss around the top of the stem and glued some leaves on, and then this one was finished. I also thrifted this frame, and I love the way it's shaped, but I'm not real crazy about I guess that's gold around the edges of the frame, and I don't want this picture in it. So I'm just going to paint it in the color cotton. And I took some alcohol and cleaned the glass good, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint the glass and the whole thing, and it will just kind of look like it's one piece, and that will be fine because I'm going to be adding some artwork on it. And the reason I decided to not add the artwork underneath the glass is because I just didn't want that glass look. So I didn't want the shininess from the glass. So if you never tried this, it's a very easy way to make over a frame. And I just think it has a real pretty look when you do it this way. Now, generally, when I'm painting on glass, I will paint the slick stick on top of that, or I guess it's called Boss now, so that my paint will stick well. But I had time to just let this first coat dry really well, and then I just did a second coat on it, and it covered just fine. Now I'm going to be decoupaging this napkin on here, and I love the colors of this, and I think that they will stand out real well with this white frame. So what I'm going to do is just tear out just above the image. Now, I could cut that, but if I cut it, I have that sharp edge, and I feel like it looks a lot better if it's torn instead. And if you've never decoupaged with napkins, you always remove all the layers except the printed layer. Now, generally, there will be 2 layers, and there is 2 in this one. But sometimes there'll only be 1. Some of the cheaper napkins, I guess, just have 1. But you do need to make sure that you remove that completely so that it doesn't try to separate from the back layer. And it's just not a pretty look, and it's hard to recover from that once you do it. So just make sure that you get every layer that can be removed off. Now here I'm just taking my nail and tracing where I need to cut that, because I can cut that edge. It's going to go right up against the frame. So I'll cut that edge off, and then I'll tear just above the image. And now this is one that after I finish this and let it dry, then I added a clear coat to the whole thing, and with this I just ended up using my Mod Podge, and I'm using a matte finish Mod Podge here. And since I had to do that anyway over the top of this image, I went ahead and sealed my frame also with that. Now, I had taken these items to the shop, and before I managed to get everything in my vignette, this one sold. So this won't be pictured in my vignette picture. I didn't even get an after picture of this one, but anyway, it sold, and I guess someone else likes the white for fall like I do, and I just think it makes your other colors pop so well. Now this next one is almost not a flip at all, and I'm sorry I don't have this in frame well, but this is just a jug that I thrifted, and all that I did to this one was wrap some jute twine several times around the top and hot glue it securely, and then I hung a little beaded tassel around the top. And that was just, I almost left it just like it was, but decided that I would at least add that tassel. And I think that it worked well with this jug. Now this is another frame that I thrifted, and although I love the color of it, I wanted to change the color up just a little so that it would go better with the picture that I chose for inside it. And I think this is an IOD transfer from, I said stencil transfer actually. This is an IOD transfer from my friend Marie. And it's called, I think this one is called A Fairy Merry Christmas. But this is going to fit perfectly inside this frame. Now again, I do like this green, but I want to tone it down some. And I'm not crazy about all the gold that's on it. So I painted it in the color Weeping Willow. And one coat covered it well. And then once that dried, then I first put a clear wax on it because my plan was to put a brown wax on it. And if you're not careful putting a brown wax straight onto paint, it will grab in places. And if you use clear wax first, that's less likely to happen. And if it does happen, easier to remove. And then if it still happens, then take a little bit more clear wax, and it kind of works as an eraser somewhat. So if it grabs too much, it's not usually too late. You just kind of keep working with it. But I really like the amount of brown that I got on this. I like how it went into all the detail. So I put one of the fairy pictures on some cardstock and cut it to fit inside the frame. And I did use the glass on this one because I didn't mind the glass over it. And then I decided that maybe it needed a little bit of dressing up where I covered the gold. And although I didn't want gold, I'm using the color bronze here and just very lightly going around this little framed area here. And then this one was finished. I didn't have to clear coat it because I had already used all the wax on it. Now these are a couple more frames that I thrifted, and these were in brand new condition. And although they're probably a little more modern than I like, I just think that they're a style that a lot of people will like. And so I didn't do anything to them. I just made sure that they were clean. And again, they were in new condition. And now I'm going to use this transfer set that my friend Marie gave me and use some of these little woodland animals. And I think this one is called Holly Glen, and it is a Christmas transfer set, just like the other one was. But it can very well be used in fall also. And I just picked a couple of the little fox pictures, and I transferred those onto some white cardstock and put them in those frames. And then that's all that I did to this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.